Hello, this is Nicole Johnson-Star with the PTSD Retreat Radio Talk Show. I am sitting here today with Dr. Rona Fields, a noted author of more than, 8 books. We got 8 books. She has traveled the world extensively. She knows about PTSD from many years of experience. She's been in the field longer than I've been around, and we won't even go there, but we'll just say she definitely knows her stuff, especially when it comes to PTSD from an international perspective. She's not just been studying in the United States. She has traveled the world, and one of the things she's actually has, you have a book coming out in February, Against Violence Against Women, that actually does touch on the trauma associated with abuse, correct?
Associated with sanctioned violence against women and the transgenerational consequences of such in many societies. Yes.
Will you be doing a book tour with it, or are you just gonna, is it just going to be released?
Hopefully when the book comes out, I'll be doing a book tour. And again, hopefully the book tour will be what is requested by media and bookstores and book reading groups.
Okay, so you guys know now that you need to request this. So Dr. Rona H. Fields. I always mess that up. Where did I get H from? Is that Dr. Berry?
I don't know.
Dr. Rona Fields. You can look her up. She's got all these books. Her books, you can get them on Amazon, as well as other areas on the internet. Now, today, though, we're focusing on military, working with military, and about PTSD and what you feel is deserved for our soldiers, for our veterans and their families.
Yes. I think if you want a little history of my experience with it,
Yes, please.
it goes back before it was called PTSD. It was called either KZ syndrome or it was called combat disorder. But it's not something that was minted recently. It's something that has been part of the history of trauma and human beings, all the way back to the people who have become fossils studied by archaeologists and who we know experienced trauma.
As far back as war and fighting.
War is a big major traumatic experience, but there are also other trauma that are associated with it or derived from it. One of the things that happens when there's a militant society, note I said militant or military society, is that there's an emphasis on the presumed male, the values of a male, and the female becomes a burden to be borne. In other words, if strength and fighting are necessary for survival of the group wants to breed males. So how do they breed males? By using females as breeders. And the females who give birth to male children are valued, and those who do not are devalued and often deliberately.
A lot like what we see over in Afghanistan, like when I was there.
Exactly. Afghanistan is one of the societies about which I was writing. This is also true in ancient times of all of the societies in Eurasia and Asia. And it's still true of all of the societies in Africa as well.
Which leads to the other forms of PTSD.
Which goes to rape, common in a military society. Unfortunately, we see it in the military in the United States today in the form of rape being much more common amongst women in the U.S. military than it is amongst women in ordinary citizen life. This is one of the things that was always used as an argument against allowing women into the military and then against allowing them full combat role in the military. And I did a study some time ago using the United Nations interim forces in Lebanon as my study sample. And these came from many different countries. And those that included women, I was particularly interested in what the women's experience was. And one of the things I learned was that in the Scandinavian military, as well as in the Irish military, which were the groups that had women in their battalions in Lebanon at the time, all the way up through 1990 is when I did the study, between 1983 and 1990. So one of the things I learned was that, first of all, the Norwegians had whole companies of women. For example, the unit that handled the mechanical work and dealing with machinery like armored vehicles and so on, it's all women.
I did not know that.
It was remarkable that way, and they just kind of took it for granted that if there's a problem,
women will handle it.
They'll handle it. And I interviewed them extensively, and they said there was no issue with their competence, and they were not confronted with sexual demands, and of course they were a unit. And that was how it was handled there. Now, the Norwegian UNIFIL soldiers who went off duty would go down to Israel, as they all did, and there were brothels and places of prostitution that they all knew about. And they often came back with various sexually transmitted diseases, but that was
that happens
their
even
problem.
now. I can, but we won't go there. But going back to PTSD,
now one of the things I found out about PTSD in my studies of peacekeeping soldiers was that they also suffered post-traumatic stress disorder when there were attacks or assaults and they were not supposed to shoot back. They had to hold their fire. And there was a tremendous stress on them because they were trained to shoot. They were trained to pick a target. And they had all of the information, but they couldn't act as they were trained to do. And that was a very interesting kind of post-traumatic stress. So one of the things I learned, because I also spent time then with the Swedish medical team, the medical battalion, and studying some of the statistics and data of the medical system, and also with the Irish who had their own medical people present, their own medical statistics, was that after these incidents, each national group had a different way of manifesting their trauma. The French got all kinds of gastric disorders. The Nepalese broke bones. They had accidents that broke their bones. The Irish tended to, even though they weren't supposed to, they'd drink on duty, get into automobile accidents, and fights.
How did the Norwegians, the peacekeeping soldiers handle what was their
They
pattern?
were stressed.
What was their pattern? Like you said, the others had broken bones, fighting, drunkenness.
Yeah.
What about the peacekeeping?
They were all peacekeeping forces.
Oh, all of them. These are all the peacekeeping
Yes.
forces. Okay.
And each kind had a different way of experiencing their post-traumatic stress. And one of the things that the Norwegians did that was very interesting was that they had a special institute that studied post-traumatic stress. Actually, that was developed after some of the studies that I had done with Professor Leo Eitinger and Piers Sundby and some of the others in Norway, and during my fellowship there in 1974-75, this all evolved, and then it was put to work in the UNIFIL and the peacekeeping operations. One of the things that the Norwegians did was develop an excellent pre-deployment program for their peacekeeping troops on dealing with trauma and stress. They also did extensive testing of the people they were sending, and this was followed through by the Swedes as well, and at one point by the Dutch, who also had earlier on a battalion deployed. It was available to anybody in the United Nations who wanted to have any kind of peacekeeping preparation.
So it was open to the United States.
I tried to sell it to the U.S. back in, when did Clinton come into office? It was in 1990. It was around 1991. And at that time we had, very briefly, a Secretary for Defense who was very keen on preparation for peacekeeping. Unfortunately, he had a very brief term, and he was not able to get very far with this. I had actually brought over to the Pentagon and met with some of the military psychologists there, a proposal for turning one of the bases that was a relatively unused base in New Jersey at the time that was going to be closed down. And I suggested that that be used instead as a training place. They've since done some preparatory training work, but not on the scale that I was looking at. I wanted that to be a place through which different units would circulate and
as part of their mobility process.
Yeah. So they'd get their training.